Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny opened about 2 weeks ago now, and let me tell you, it's as bad as everyone is saying. Stick around and let's talk about it. Now, I'm not going to get into a big giant review of the movie. There's plenty of people out there who have done an amazing job at really breaking this film down, and you should go and watch them. What I will say is that if you are thinking about going to see this movie because it's a big action flick and it's just part of your childhood, stay away. Save your money, wait for it to come out on streaming. It'll probably hit Amazon Prime or Disney Plus. Watch it when it gets there, or sail the high seas if that's what you want to do. I've said this a couple of times through tweets and other shows that I've done. Indiana Jones did an amazing job throughout its entire run, excluding Crystal Skull, because who really cares? They really walked the line between reality and larger than life, with a little peppering of humor. The Dial of Destiny throws that whole thing out. Everything is larger than life. The film is really hard to watch because of how much CGI is involved, and because of it, everything looks blurry. Nothing even looks clear. They go full larger than life, which, again, what made Indiana Jones feel so real was that it felt like this could be an adventure that you would go on. You could go into the Amazon or into the deepest parts of the jungle and find a hidden cave and avoid these traps in order to get something to lead you to the next spot. And once you find what you were looking for, you might be hit with something larger than life, something supernatural, but it was still based in people's like real fears. But Disney has been excellent at taking former IPs and bleeding them dry of anything good or worth expanding upon. But rest assured, the first 15 minutes of the movie are pretty good. There's a really great action sequence, very reminiscent of the older Indiana Jones films. But as the film starts and progresses, we are met with a very aged Harrison Ford, who doesn't even look like he wants to be on screen. And his female counterpart is one of the most insufferable characters ever put on screen. And I'm not saying that. I don't even like saying that most of the part, but it was so hard listening to her dialogue and trying to take it seriously as if it actually fit into an Indiana Jones movie. And by the end, you feel like, what just happened exactly? Why are we here? How did we get here? What puzzles were actually solved? And the ones that were solved, why? And things just happen because they need to happen, not because anyone did any sort of work. At one point, they take off in a boat and the antagonist just watches them with their binoculars and goes, oh, they went that way, not that way. It is just another example of Disney ruining these very strong-willed characters from our past and making them into broken, aged, and spiteful men. And the critics just don't even have a clue. What I'm going to share with you is an article written by The Federalist that is pure cope. All right, so the Federalist headline reads, Harrison Ford gives Indiana Jones a send-off worthy of the iconic franchise. This is complete garbage, by the way. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, the latest and allegedly last film in the Indiana Jones franchise, is a wonderful goodbye to not only the character of Indy, but an entire era of filmmaking. This film is far from perfect. It takes some really big swings that will not work for everyone, but overall, it's an impressive piece of adventure filmmaking that harks back to the series' roots and a much more exciting era for intellectual property filmmaking. This is complete and utter garbage. There's nothing great about this film. It certainly takes some big swings. And again, in the hands of the right people, this movie could have been fun and really, really good. But since Disney is completely and creatively bankrupt, they screwed the pooch at every single turn. Of the other three indie films, Dial of Destiny gets the closest to that classic Hollywood magic, while ironically being the furthest away, both in time and reliance on computer technology. So really, this article does not really hit on anything big about why this movie doesn't work. The Dial of Destiny is as far away from the classic original trilogy that you can actually be. This film is incredibly poorly timed. It just, it doesn't work. The obligatory prologue sees Indiana Jones back in Nazi Germany trying to find a religiously themed artifact, the Spear of Longinus. This is the spear of the legend that pierced the side of Christ, and like the Ark in Raiders, is supposed to lead armies to victory in battle. Of course, the Nazis can't be allowed to have it, so Indy is off looking for it. Harrison Ford is now 80 years old, so for this section of the film, they had to de-age him in order to tell a convincing narrative. This is probably why it's one of the most expensive films ever made. The AI-based de-aging technology is very pricey. I'm sure it is. This is not where the film goes wrong, first of all, and I don't know if this is where all the money went to. This has been the most controversial element of the movie. In my opinion, it worked quite well. No one that I have listened to has thought the de-aging was controversial. We understand it's necessary because Harrison Ford is 80 years old. He's not the 40-year-old adventurer that he was 30 years ago. Goes on to say, but it feels like overkill. The lengthy prologue could have benefited from some more creativity hiding Ford's de-aged face. You get the sense they're trying to flex their special effects muscles rather than go for an effective filmmaking. No one is really taking issue with the de-aging process. And again, this was the best part of the movie, in my opinion, because it so closely resembled the Indiana Jones that we knew 20, 30 years ago. And they do go on to say as much in a later paragraph. The best special effect this movie has to offer is Harrison Ford himself. His age feels like a boon, not a burden. This guy is still dripping with charisma after all these years. I'm going to pause you right there. He is not dripping with charisma, and he is a burden. He isn't a boon. And they make it very clear in this movie that Indiana Jones is a burden to Phoebe Waller-Bridge. And again, as for the charisma, he has the charisma of a glass of salt water at this point. It doesn't even feel like Harrison Ford wants to be in this movie. They do go on to say here that his performance is tear-inducing more than once. It isn't. It is kind of sad to see that he will never play this character again because he is just way too old. But tear-inducing? Not really. Raiders is about the mystery and dangers of the past. The Last Crusade is about the nature of the father-son relationship, and Dial of Destiny tells a story about what it means to grow old. I could almost get behind this. What the Dial of Destiny is really good at telling is how you shouldn't make movies 30 years after the last one. The movie drags on entirely too long. Each puzzle they're trying to solve, you don't even really understand the motivations behind these puzzles or if it even matters. And then when they finally do get to the thing and they do get to the place that they're trying to get, even in his final wishes, he is not allowed to do the things he wants to do because Phoebe Waller-Bridge needs to have her way. Dial of Destiny allows the audience to experience Indy's existential struggle. That's quite unsurprising, especially for a big picture genre like this. But I think we finally have the best goodbye to the globetrotting Nazi fighter anyone could possibly hope for. This is the sequel I don't think anybody really wanted, but it might be the one we needed. Let's be perfectly clear. The ending to Indiana Jones's story was The Last Crusade. End of story, period. I don't know if we could really make a case that Crystal Skull was even necessary. You're right, this is the sequel that nobody wanted, and it will be the sequel that we never needed. Even by the end of the film, you're left wondering, what now? It almost seemed like everyone was just sort of left hanging around, and the film just kind of ended, and everyone just sort of meandered away. These are strange days for cinema. In the last few years, Harrison Ford has replayed his most iconic characters from 40 years ago. But this one turned out to be the best and most interesting opportunity for him to remind us why he's had such an amazing career. Like I said, this article is one big cope for a movie that nobody wanted, nobody has cared for, and has just been a big bloated mess from its inception. It continues to illustrate how badly Disney has mismanaged these IPs and turned them into the worst possible versions of themselves. So do yourselves a favor, save your money, watch the original trilogy and see how a real hero starts an adventure and ends an adventure and puts everything he can on the line to preserve history and to teach people like the value of our history. This spits in the face of everything that Indiana Jones ever was for a few cheap laughs from an actress who has zero charisma herself and is about as one-dimensional as a sheet of paper. I wish I could say more nice things about this film, but I just can't. It has suffered so many issues. There aren't even enough moments to collect to say we could have had something good. This was forced. If you saw Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, let me know in the comments below what you thought. I would love to hear your thoughts on this movie. Let me know down below. And make sure, of course, you like the video, subscribe to the channel if you aren't already, hit the notification bell, and you'll be informed every time we put out a new video. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you guys next time.